and actively seeking to understand and address the needs of our female colleagues and students. So inspiring the inclusion of women and girls within education settings is really not just a moral imperative, it's an investment in the future. Through doing these things that I've mentioned, we can contribute to a world that thrives on diversity, innovation, and mutual respect. And let's commit ourselves to being agents of change, paving the way for a future where every individual, regardless of gender, can reach their full potential. And that's smiling. And now I'd like to hand over to my co-chair in the Women's Forum, Ellie. Thank you, Ellie.
Hi everyone, I'm Ellie. I'm the Relational Practice Champion in Student Life. I'm now the co-chair of the Women's Forum as well, which I've only been in post for about 3 weeks. So this is really nice to have such a lovely week and a lovely Friday afternoon in my 3rd week of doing this. It's been really amazing. You'll hear some of the reasons for people being nominated for these awards a bit later, but we went through about 60 nominations, and it was just so lovely to hear about everything that people are doing across the group, things that we didn't know existed until we heard the nominations, and I hope that you'll enjoy hearing a little bit more about them as well. But yeah, I think I'm handing over to Andrea now, who's going to do a little bit of a presentation.
So I'm a little bit nervous because unaccustomed as I am to public speaking. So you'll all know that I do lots of presentations and I talk about lots of things. But when Karen asked me to talk at the forum, I was a bit like, why me? And she said, well, because when we set the forum up, it was, thank you, it was you that made it happen. And I thought back to that day, and we were doing an EDI online training day in the middle of COVID, or, it was all online. And it sort of came up in the chat, can we have a women's forum? And we just said, yeah, and did it. So why the Women's Forum? The answer to the question is because you're all here and we need it. But I said, well, what do you want me to cover? Because, Karen obviously is giving a big piece about, the feedback about why it's important that we've got a women's forum and women's space within Luminate. And she sort of said, well, why don't you just tell people how you came to this? So I thought, okay, we've got a story. So this is me at 15 with my 3 school friends. And this was where my journey into sort of feminism and women's issues started. I went to an all-girls school in Manchester, in a place called Droylsden. Has anyone heard of Droylsden? Okay, right. So we know what we're talking about then, don't we? We talk Droylsden. It's not the nicest part of the world, but you know what? It had good things about it. And one of them was my 3 amazing friends who've been a part of my life ever since. And this is a really personal journey that I'm going to take you through now. And I'll probably talk about some stuff that I wouldn't normally talk about at work. And I hadn't realised we were being live streamed, so I'll probably tone it down a little bit as well. So when I was at school, I had a really, really influential teacher, and I bet you all thought I'd go there'd be some amazing woman there. But actually, most of the teachers at my school were women. But Mr. Latachinsky there wasn't, obviously. He was my pottery teacher, and he was also my form teacher in the 4th form, which used to be year 10. I'm that old. And he was gay, and he was openly gay in 1982. And that was a really big thing, because people weren't gay in 1982. Being gay in 1982, that was the era of AIDS and HIV, and we spent our teenage years being told that if we had sex, basically, we were going to die. And that's what I grew up, certainly for a little while, thinking. Then I realised, when you practice often enough and you prove a thing. No, it wasn't quite like that. But my sort of the early 80s were the bits where were my formative years. That was the music I was listening to. There was some amazing stuff in there. First album I ever bought, Blondie Parallel Lines. You've got Grace Jones in there, absolutely brilliant woman. Michelle Shocked. Anyone heard of Michelle Shocked? Yes. Yes, we're of a nature. And then things like the communards started floating through, because in Manchester, one of the big things around being in Manchester at that time was that we were right at the centre of a number of big campaigns, political campaigns and political protest groups. But I left school in 1984. I left school, I sat my O-levels, because they were still O-levels in those days. I sat my O-levels and finished my last exam, went home, packed a bag and left home. And that was it. I didn't actually live with my parents after that point. My relationship with my father was really, really poor. A good relationship with my mum. But it just became unsustainable. So I moved out. And one of the things I learned when I was doing what you now call sofa surfing, but we just used to call it dossing at friends' houses, was that you could move between lots of people's houses and people wouldn't really notice you were there for a while until someone would say, "Sandra, you're still in the spare room." And I lived for a little while. I didn't live in Hume, but the top right-hand corner there is quite an it's like a big part of what was Manchester back then. But I spent some years in and out of Hume. But I lived in a flat in the end of Droylsden that was called the Bronx on the Thornhills. I'm getting some nods there. Somebody knows. So I lived in a flat there with a guy that I hooked up with, and yeah, that wasn't the best period of my life. But what that taught me was a lot around what it was like to be young, unattached but unanchored. So I lacked any sort of anchoring or sort of rooting in any sort of permanent family relationship at that point. But the one thing I did have was I was on a YTS scheme. So in those days, there were no jobs anywhere. I was on a YTS scheme. £26.25 a week is what we got paid. I went to my YTS scheme, which was at Kendall's in a shop in the middle of Manchester, every day, because at Kendall's, I got my breakfast and I got my lunch. So I then didn't need to eat in the evening, which meant the £26.25 went that little bit further. So living sort of at 16 and 17 in a variety of weird places gives you a whole load of experiences. Anyway, various things happened, and there is actually just something around the culture of what I was living with. Some of you were nodding because that's someone sniffing glue. That's what people did for fun when I was a teenager. There wasn't a lot else going on. The pub shut at 11 o'clock most nights. But what I did is my dad died then when I was 17 and a bit, and I moved back in with my mum for a bit, and that changed things, and it rerouted me and regrounded me a little bit. But I did then get involved in lots of other stuff around people that I'd met through being around Hume and so on, which took me to this campaign, the Viraj Mendes Defence Campaign. So this was like one of my first political awakenings. This was a guy who the Home Office wanted to deport. He'd been living in the UK for ages. He was a student, came from Sri Lanka. Home Office wanted to deport him. And he was given asylum in a church by a vicar, a random vicar in a church in Hume, gave him asylum for 2 whole years. And we were part of this big campaign. And that made me really quite political and aware of lots of issues that face different people. And the other thing down here is a picture of the Clause 28 demos. And anyone that is of my age will remember that piece of legislation, what became Section 28, which said that it was illegal for teachers to promote homosexuality in what they called a pretend family relationship. And there were mass protests, but the North West and Manchester were just really, really huge in terms of picking those protests up. And I became really involved with people around that. And then I went to college. So I'd got my O-levels. I did all right, actually. I didn't do brilliantly, but I didn't do badly. And FE changed my life. And one of the things that changed my life was doing sociology. And Karl Marx and the work he does on social class and alienation, it just still rings true and resonates with me. And I know it's not the most popular sort of political theory in the world these days, for all sorts of reasons. That's Tameside College, where I went. And the person down there, Jackie, she's actually principal at Tameside College, but she was in my year at school. And that photo at the start, she took that photo. And it's ironic that Jackie then ended up, she trained as a hairdresser. And she was the first person that cut my hair properly. I'll show you the haircut later when we get there. Now she's running Tameside College. She actually denies doing the haircut, by the way. So then I moved to, did my A-levels, got a C and a D, was it? A B and C, something like that. Anyway, it wasn't brilliant, failed one completely. But moved to Leeds and came to Leeds Poly. And that's where I got involved again. My natural bent was moving towards political movements and societies and things like that. And we were protesting against the poll tax, we were protesting against student loans, we were protesting against war, and then there was the big stuff we were doing around the university unions, where we protested around violence on the streets in Leeds in particular, and we used to march through Hyde Park at night and stuff like that. But I told you about the haircut earlier. So in the first picture, you'll notice your hair was quite similar, quite long like this. And back here, my hair's really short. So that's me on the front page of The Guardian, a student loans demo. It's a photocopy that I've got now. I don't know what happened to the original. But it was Jackie that cut my hair, and she said, oh, I'm a trained hairdresser, let me just do a trim. And honestly, I'm laughing now with the hairdressers there. Honestly, she just kept cutting and cutting and cutting until my hair went from your length to your length. But so that's me protesting against student loans. That's Westminster Bridge. So has anyone heard of the fight of Westminster Bridge? Okay, Westminster Bridge was where there were thousands, tens of thousands of students protesting against student loans. I was there, Bill Jones was there, didn't know him at that point, he was there somewhere else. My friend Simon, who's a police officer, was there, but Simon was in his uniform that day and I was in the crowd. We only made these connections years later. But those protests and that mass political movement really underpinned why I became who I became. This picture was taken in Hyde Park in Headingley, and for those of you that sort of know Hyde Park, they'll know that's where lots of protests and political activity goes on. So, what's my why? How did we get to where I am? I've told you a story about who I am and where I came from. But all this stuff that you know me for, anyone that listens to the stuff that I do or the work that I do, my teams that work with me, the work we do across college HR, recognising that anything we do for students, it's nothing if we don't do the same thing for staff, that everything is about bringing a whole organisational culture together. All that stuff that I would say is really close to my heart comes from those experiences in that little window of what I sometimes call my lost years, when I don't particularly want to explain that I've made some strange decisions, but I won't call them poor decisions, because they, you know what, they brought me where I am, and where I am is a really good place. But that stuff is who I am and what I stand for. There's my friends from earlier. So we went to see Blondie when she was touring last year. Was my first album. We're all still there. We're all still together, and we're all still really good mates. But this is a couple of things I just want to say. So a few years ago, this young woman, Ellie Faulkner, who you'll all know if you're on the tutorial networks, came in my office and she said, I'm really angry about way refugees are being treated. Can we organise a demonstration? Honestly, it was like I died and gone to heaven, but I didn't go, Ellie, she's not here, is she? I didn't sort of say, oh, Ellie, this is brilliant. But I was a bit like, okay, this is great. Ellie wants to come and make a difference and do something different. And you'll see Gina and Alison there, and we sort of worked together to support Ellie to get her demonstration going, and she did that all by herself, just with a bit of guidance from us and a few contacts. And what I'd say is my journey, why I'm a feminist because I see inequality in the world as structural. I think that systems and processes that we work to quite often disadvantage certain groups over others, and I think fundamentally economic power and control are the things that actually have an impact on people's lives. That's my personal view. I'll express it now because I was asked to talk personally. But when I look at the world and I look at how I make decisions about what happens, I generally go, when you're making a decision about is this the right thing to do or not, I go, well, who's advantaged and who's disadvantaged in this situation, and how can we support the person that actually is fighting back and trying to make a better world? How do we support that person to do a little bit more? So what I'd say is, playing like a girl doesn't mean what it used to, because when I was a kid, playing like a girl was such an insult. This is my friend Karen, who's a rugby player. And I would say, you know, I'm proud to be who I am. I'm proud to be feminist. Don't often talk about this sort of part of my life. I mean, Mitch has known me a long time. You've probably never heard. Yeah. I've probably told you the Westminster Bridge story though, haven't I? And these are the other two hugely important things in my life, which are my boys, and I love them very, very dearly. And I see part of my job as bringing them up to be the next generation that goes through. So there we go. Power to us women. Let's fight back. Let's challenge the discrimination, challenge the unfairness, wherever it comes. And there you go.
Okay, thank you so much for that, Andrea. That was a fantastic speech. It really was. Those pictures are amazing. The picture of you and your two boys is just, oh, it's lovely. It's so great. So from that, we're going to have a quick look at some of the events, some of the things that have taken place across this week to celebrate International Women's Day. So I've got a few photos to share with you. So this is our stall that we had set up at Park Lane, and here we had some amazing salon spa staff from Printworks. So huge thanks to them. They spent an afternoon at Quarry Hill and they spent an afternoon at Park Lane, just giving out little 5-minute massages to people. And I know certainly at Park Lane, they couldn't get around everyone quick enough. There was just so much demand for it, which I thought was fantastic. This is a couple of sessions we had. So we had an amazing session from Helen, all about ADHD and neurodiversity and what that looks like for her as a woman, and how we can support women, that we can support sort of neurodiverse women in the workplace. We had, I think this one might have been at Keighley, a chair yoga session. We had 2 or 3 of these chair yoga sessions across the group, and they were really well received as well. You can see the lighting in that one's a bit dark. I think that's because it was nice and calm, had the lights off, and people enjoyed that as well. This, I think, just looks amazing. This is the amazing Fabrice and his French patisserie workshop, where people made those gorgeous looking apple tarts, and I didn't even get a slice. But they look fantastic, and everyone had such a good time. We had some self-defense sessions, and I absolutely love this picture. Poor Tracy getting pinned up against the wall by Jane, I think it is, but that's all in good fun, obviously, nothing violent actually going on there, but we had some really good self-defense sessions, and the feedback from that was that I think people would like to see some more of those. So watch this space, and if we can, we'll try and sort of put some more things like that on in the future. This is a session that we had downstairs at Printworks with the same thing. And again, I really like the action shots that we got there. So huge thanks to everybody who sent me back pictures for the events that I couldn't attend to take pictures at. This is our reworkshop, and I was blown away by the talent on display here from our staff. So our staff decorated their own chopping boards to keep. This one was held at Mabgate, and you can see the results on the right hand side. I mean, some of that puffin and those beautiful sort of flower designs are just stunning, aren't they? And the little sunrise there at the bottom is one of my favourites as well. So yeah, they were really amazing sessions. This was again downstairs at Printworks yesterday. There was a skincare and wellbeing workshop led by the spa staff. I'm not entirely sure what's happening here. I can only assume that is something for detecting perhaps sun damage. Is that what it is? It's UV sort of exposure. I I did wonder if that's what it was, but everybody said they had an amazing time there as well, and everybody got to have a little free hand and arm massage or scalp massage. These are just some of the pictures that we took this morning from our stall at Park Lane. We've got some staff and students there with their pledges. We asked people to pick the pledge that really resonated with them. And we've got some pictures there of some of our staff and some of our students with their pledges. And I think, yeah. So I think that's it for our photos, but I think you can agree it has been an amazing week, and we've had some really good fun stuff going on, as well as some really informative sort of development workshops as well. So I want to go on next just to give a few thanks, because so many people have been involved in putting all of this together this week, and I really do obviously need to make sure that I acknowledge everybody. So huge thanks, firstly to Andrea for launching the forum in the first place, because without you we wouldn't be here and this wouldn't exist. Equally to my sponsor of the forum, Susie Gallagher, who unfortunately wasn't able to be here today, but I know she's with us in spirit. Massive thanks as well to my wonderful new co-chair, Ellie, who, again, I couldn't have done any of this without. So thank you to that. I want to say thank you to Marla and Darren, my bosses, for being patient and allowing me the freedom and the time to actually be able to devote to this, when I probably should have been getting on with proper work. And and everyone in the senior leadership team who allowed it to happen and, trusted me not to mess it up, which hopefully I haven't. In terms of funding, I'd really like to thank, again, Andrea for contributions from Student Life to make this happen, Marla for contributions from the Innovation and Development Fund, and also GMB and Cindy for sponsoring the awards themselves, which I'm sure you can agree look amazing. And on to that, continuing on the theme of Cindy really for arranging sponsorship of the awards and actually sourcing these particular awards, a huge thanks, because they are fantastic. I want to thank everybody who delivered sessions this week. So we had Polina, who delivered an amazing session about women in history and women's legacy. We had Helen, who you saw, who delivered women's experience of ADHD. Mia, this lunchtime, delivered a fantastic session all about the power of disabled women. Fabrice for his fantastic patisserie workshop. Cindy again for delivering a great workshop on imposter syndrome. Alex Wild, who delivered some really good sessions called I Am Remarkable, that we're hoping to put some more of on in the future, which is all about sort of taking the time to really recognise your achievements and actually just really sort of recognise where you've got to. It's a real empowering, uplifting workshop. Bethan and Sarah, so Bethan Powell and Sarah Heaton, who co-delivered the menopause sessions with me. Again, watch this space for more of them in the future. Really need to thank Alicia Brown, Neil Bostock, and the Reed team for doing such an amazing job with the Reed workshops. Really went above and beyond, not only in putting them on, but in actually promoting them and getting it out there as well. So huge thanks to you for that. I'll need to thank, this is going on a bit, I do apologise, salon staff. We have Karen Smith, Sarah Wilcox, and Casey Lee Grimshaw, who delivered our workshop, our print works, and went round to do the massages. Huge thanks for that. Steph Keedy at Harrogate in the salon there, who provided some discounted treatments for charity and also ran a charity bake sale. And Claire Ravenscroft at Keighley, who was really good enough to offer free treatments to staff over at Keighley this week, which is fantastic. I need to thank Matoka and Mariam for organising the live streaming of today, because I couldn't have even begun to know where to start when it comes to that sort of thing. So thank you. The comms team for helping getting the word out, particularly Hannah, who's probably absolutely sick of the sight of my name popping up in her inbox. Catherine McGee and Tracy Turner at Keighley and Lynn Liu at Harrogate for helping with organising venues and sorting the rooms for us. Lastly, you'll be glad to know, I want to thank everyone who engaged with our events and attended any of our sessions this week. Anyone who nominated a colleague for one of these Inspiring Inclusion Awards, and to all of our award winners, thank you all for being brilliant. And those are my facts. So I'm going to hand over to Ellie now, who's going to talk a little bit about our new charity partner.
Yeah, so we, a couple of months ago probably now, we put the question to the Women's Forum members about what charity they would like to support for the year. So this is a charity we're going to be working with not only for International Women's Day, but over the course of 2024. We had some amazing suggestions. I think we're really lucky in Leeds that we have so many charities that do so much work around women and girls' rights. So we had examples like BASIS, who support sex workers. We had Getaway Girls, who support like young women to do all sorts of team building, all sorts of stuff. But our charity partner for 2024 is Leeds Women's Aid. So that was voted for by our members. And they do some amazing work with women and families who have been affected by domestic violence and abuse. So a couple of things that they do are they provide an IDVA service. So they have a team of independent domestic violence advisors, and they help women who would like to report domestic violence through the criminal justice system, help to navigate it, and also just provide like emotional support. They do so many support groups. They've got a charity shop in Horsforth. They're doing just so much stuff around raising the profile of the fight for women's rights, specifically in Leeds. And they're obviously part of Women's Aid as like a national organisation as well. But we're really excited to be doing some more stuff with them over the course of the year. You'll all notice, I can't not plug this, you've all got a little card on the table. We've asked people if they access sessions this week that they enjoyed. It's totally optional, but we would love to see a few donations coming in, just to say thank you to our facilitators and just pay a little bit of what we've got this week back to other people who might need some support if they're going through a tough time at home. And then we've got a little video which is from from Nick Peasgood, who's the CEO of Leeds Women's Aid, just to say thank you for what we're doing.
Hello everyone, I'm Nick, the Chief Executive of Leeds Women's Aid, and I just want to say a huge thank you to everyone involved in the Illuminate Women's Forum for choosing our organisation for your Charity of the Year. Your support and recognition truly means a lot to us, and it will help us to continue the work that we do supporting women and children fleeing domestic violence and abuse. Women often arrive at our emergency refuge accommodation with very few personal belongings, so a donation drive for items such as toiletries and bedding means that we can provide them with the essentials to help them rebuild their lives. Not only that, it means an awful lot to them to know that people are thinking about them. Thank you again for your support, and I look forward for us to work together more this year. Have a lovely International Women's Day.
So that's the QR code. If you'd like to donate, there's lots of cards and bits and bobs around. If you'd like to donate today, we would really appreciate it. And as Nick said, it's all going towards a really, really great cause. Okay. Now on to the fun, exciting bit. Announcing some of our winners. So we've got 11 awards to give out, all split across the group. We wanted to get real representation of things that are happening, not just at the bigger campuses, but at the smaller ones too. Like I said earlier, we had about 60 nominations, which we were really, really pleased with. And I mean, when we were choosing who the winners were as like a panel, Steph Keeley from Harrogate just emailed us about 10 minutes before our meeting to say that it was just the highlight of our week because people have just been so lovely in what they've said. And we've got, even if you haven't won, we've got certificates of recognition for everyone who's been nominated with the little message that people have nominated you for. I don't want to click on to the next slide in case it's got someone's name.
Yeah, it's.
Is it? Okay.
First winner.
So the first winner is from Deacon House. I don't know if they're here.
I'm not too sure. We can
But the winner that we've got from Deacon House is Moya Parker.
It's like the gift that keeps on giving. Congratulations, Moya. Thank you ever so much. Badges and trophies. Brilliant. Thank you. Well done. Well done. Thank you.
So the reason that Moya was nominated, I'll just read a little bit from the nomination statement. So they've said, Moya is a passionate advocate for women and their well-being through the transformative power of crafts and creativity. She actively promotes the visibility and recognition of women, emphasising the crucial role that creativity plays in enhancing their overall well-being. And they've called you a beacon of encouragement, which we just think is
Okay. On to winner number 2. And without further ado, our winner number 2 is Angela Lee from Eastgate. I know Angela's here. Please come
Thank you. Thanks very much. Your certificate and your things and taking a picture.
So Angela leads a multicultural team with staff from the UK, Greece, India and Hong Kong. She embraces the notion of inclusion in that she always endeavours to make sure no team member is left out of any activity. And your colleagues have said, I'm highly appreciative of the equal opportunities and treatment that Angela offers to the team, irrespective of gender and race. It's definitely a blessing to be under her leadership as she makes every colleague feel valued. So thank you, Angela.
Next winner is from the Enfield Centre, and that is Annalisa Thomas. So they've said Annalisa is particularly committed to promoting the visibility and recognition of women in family groups. Through her role, she actively encourages and celebrates the contributions of women, creating an environment that acknowledges their vital roles within the family unit. In designing and building family courses, Annalisa places a strong emphasis on meeting the specific needs of women and girls.
Annalisa. And next we have from Harrogate, Lynn Shern. And I don't think Lynn could be over here today, but I don't know if there's anybody that would want to collect the award on her behalf. If there's anyone here from Harrogate. If not, then we'll take it over in the week and present that to Lynn. So Lynn predominantly teaches young girls in her curriculum area. She constantly gives career advice, encourages learners to aim high and to have high expectations in their careers. She really champions women and girls having their own career. And she always takes time when a learner's in need, whether it's personal health issues, mental health or family matters. And she's happy to help and guide them along the twists and turns of life.
So our next winner is from Keighley College, and they are Sana Begum. So this nomination came in because Sana is always going the extra mile to support students to achieve their full potential. Her work ethic in ensuring all learners have the help and wraparound care at college is inspiring. And they've described you as having superwoman-like qualities to inspire inclusion by embodying the Total Inspire Inclusion campaign.
Next winner we have is from Leeds Conservatoire. And our winner is Ruth Clark. And I think, again, potentially we don't have Ruth with us here today. No, I don't think so. But what Ruth's colleagues have said about her is that Ruth's selfless generosity and dedication motivates everyone around her. she not only embodies the type of leader I aspire to be, but also the genuine, affable nature I wish to see more of in the world, which I thought was lovely. As a manager, Ruth continually promotes the inclusion, equity and support of all staff in the workplace, both inspiring and bold in her pursuit of systemic change. So well done, Ruth.
Next winner is from Mabgate, and they are Joanna Candler. So Jo's colleagues have said about her, Jo is a champion of inclusion towards all staff and students. She's a great role model and always goes above and beyond her duties as a teacher. She actively plans and delivers sessions that include everyone, and Jo is particularly great at building positive relations with students from a more disadvantaged background.
Wonderful. So next we have a nominee from Park Lane, and I think I've been quite unlucky today because I have a funny feeling that this winner may not be with us either. We have Laura Kavanagh from Park Lane, and Laura's been nominated for being an inclusive leader at Luminate. She stands up for what's right and she seeks to improve experiences for others where she can. She's a real positive influence in our team and in the group, also not shying away from difficult conversations when necessary. She's also at the top of her game as a communications professional. Well done, Laura.
Okay, next winner is from Printworks, and our winner is Tia Buxton. So the person who nominated Tia said, Tia is a fantastic example of someone who promotes inclusion. She's set up a Women in STEM group, which she hosts every Wednesday lunchtime. This is a safe space for our female identifying students to come together and chat about their academic and personal lives. Tia works in a male-dominated department where around 95% of staff and students identify as men. This can be a really challenging environment in which it can be hard to be a female leader. Tia inspires me every day with her dedication to both increasing opportunities for women in STEM and also the fantastic work she does to promote healthy masculinity in the department.
Okay. Now I think we've actually come to our last award of the day. This award is actually a joint award because we had them nominated as a pair and we absolutely couldn't separate them, and they're both wonderful. So our last winner from Quarry Hill, Jessica Kirk, is the champion.
Okay, who's Jess? Okay, Jess. There's you. You nearly got Girl Guide, haven't you?
Thank you. So Jess and Sidra have set up the Unite Her Girls Club, a wellbeing and fitness club for colleagues and students to attend every week, which provides a safe space for women and girls to access exercise, team building and mindfulness and build a sense of community. The club aims to improve the mental health and the physical well-being of women and girls. Well done. Okay.
Confiscated.
So these are the last of our awards today, but we would also like to recognise many people that have been nominated, and we have here a list. We won't go through all of them because you could be here for quite some time, but we do have certificates for everybody that has been nominated, and they do include the comments that have been made about you. So if you can read this, and if your name happens to be on this list, then once we've finished, do come up and you can collect your certificates. And I just wanted to say a huge well done to absolutely everybody there that's been nominated. And anybody that's not here, we will obviously get in contact with everyone and make sure that they get their certificate.
Yeah.
So before we finish, Ellie, are there any words
Yeah.
that you'd like to say?
Before we finish, Karen's going to be concerned now because I'm now freestyling.
Oh,
But it felt only right. You did all of the thank yous earlier, but I think we wouldn't all be in this room celebrating all of these amazing women without one amazing woman who's brought us all here together. So we all just want to say thank you for all of the work you do. It's the Inspiring Inclusion Awards, and we just feel that you embody inspiring inclusion. So thank you.
wow. Thank you so much, everyone. I really wasn't expecting that.
Well, I felt like a bit of a fraud because, as I said at the start, I've only been here for 3 weeks. So Karen has been the driving force behind everything that's happened for International Women's Day. So I thought, bunch of flowers, and I was a bit worried earlier because Karen kindly picked up all the printing, and somewhere in here there's actually a certificate with your name on it. So I was really worried that I was going to let the cat out of the bag.
It's fine. I didn't go through them. You're okay. So yes,
Can I
thank
just
you.
echo
Sorry.
that as well? I just want to say, although the setting up of the forum was something that happened a couple of years ago, it would not have had the force and the success that it's had without Karen at its helm. And as the co-chair right the way through, you are the consistent voice that's been there, that's been standing, flying the flag for women. I have never seen an International Women's Day with the variety and number of events that you've put on today. So a huge thanks from the whole of Luminate, not just from the forum. We really do appreciate you, Karen. You're an
Back to you guys. Thank you very much. A huge thank you to all for coming today and for engaging with everything and making it, what it's actually been. So yeah, I'm going to go and sleep for a week now. Okay.
and finish the cupcakes.
Yeah, absolutely. Help yourself to cakes. As a last slide, huge thank you to you. We've left the QR code up there, but I know you've got it on your little cards as well. If anybody does completely not obligatory in any way, shape or form, but if anyone does want to make a donation, please do. Thank you very much.
You doing a big team picture?
Sorry?
You doing a big team picture?
Oh, that's a
Well,
good
with all
idea.
the
Everyone's
nominees,
here.
yeah.
Do you want to get everybody
With their
down
award?
this side of the
Yeah,
Yeah, wherever.
if you've got an award,
Yeah.
come up to the
Awards,
front.
come back to the front with your certificates. That's a good idea, Matt.
Yeah.
Yeah, they bring their awards. Bring your certificates and your awards.
And Karen, you in the middle of it.
You and Ellie, you stand in the middle.